welcome to the thrilling podcast where we are going to discuss the link between mental intelligence and mental illness. If you are smart, a part of Mensa, or simply get straight A's, are you at a higher risk of being mentally ill? That's what we have researched in this podcast. Depression, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia are all illnesses that famous people throughout history have suffered from, according to psychiatrists today. If you are highly intelligent or a straight A student, according to some professors, you might be at a higher risk of suffering from a mental illness or develop one sooner in your life because of your intelligence or your grades. A common saying is that great art comes from great pain. This saying has long-standing roots in public opinion, rumored to date back to ancient philosophers and poets. Even in ancient times, people have observed the link between intelligence and mental illness. We have researched this link further, so if you want to find out if there really is a link between mental intelligence and mental illness, you're listening to the right podcast.
They say that depression and intelligence go hand in hand. Einstein, for instance, had a depression. But it doesn't mean that being smart gives you a depression, but being intelligent comes with certain qualities that can make you more likely to develop a depression. Because smarter people tend to analyze their life and overthink things, resulting in negative outcomes. Highly intelligent people are very self-aware and emotionally sensitive, which makes you more likely to think of your life and existence cynically, especially if you lack emotional support from family members, friends, or spouses that can challenge the negative thoughts. Statistics from James McCabe's article about the correlation between intelligence and mental illness, published in the British Journal of Psychiatry, show that students who are good at their humanities subjects, such as linguistics, art, and music, are more likely to develop depressive maniac symptoms, also known as bipolar disorder. The famous musician Beethoven, for instance, and the Danish poet Michael Strunge suffered from bipolar disorder. So creative minds, emotional intelligence, and the ability to connect things are factors that make you more prone to develop depressive maniac symptoms, and even schizophrenia. This might be due to the fact that you are more sensitive and aware of the environment surrounding you.
We are now going to take a short commercial break. See you in a moment. Welcome back to our podcast on tortured geniuses. Before the break, we spoke about the different mental illnesses that exist. Now, we'd like to delve deeper into some more specific cases where famous geniuses have had these mental illnesses. The first person is Ludwig von Beethoven, or more commonly known as just Beethoven. Beethoven lived from 1770 to 1827. He was a talented German composer and pianist, and his music is still world famous today. It is known that Beethoven suffered from bipolar disorder and mania. His outbreak of mania was well known among his closest friends. When he was in this state of mind, he wrote his most beloved works. Throughout his adult life, he contemplated suicide, and at some point he went through such a depressive period that he stopped caring about his appearance at social events. Another highly intelligent person who suffered from various mental illnesses was Michelangelo, who was born in 1475 and died in 1564. He was an Italian sculptor, architect, and painter. Michelangelo is famous for his painting of the Sistine Chapel. The painting was a single-minded routine, and it took him 4 years to paint the chapel. Psychologists have argued that because of that, Michelangelo must have suffered from mental illness of some sort, and the most speculated illness would have to be autism due to his ability to concentrate on big and frustrating projects for such an extended period of time. Besides this, he also had a hard time forming relationships with people, and he did not even attend his own brother's funeral. His genius in math and art only supported his mental illness further.
The last person we would like to mention briefly is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the President of the United States from 1861 to 1865. After his death, letters by his friends were found. The letters said that Abraham Lincoln was the most depressed person they had ever seen, and one time, Lincoln was so overwhelmed with melancholy that he collapsed. Other geniuses with mental illnesses worth mentioning are Ernest Hemingway, Charles Dickens, Charles Darwin, Kurt Gödel, Isaac Newton, Max Weber, and Sylvia Plath.
It is not only historical geniuses that we have examined. No, we have also examined the organization Mensa. Mensa is a high IQ society where you need an IQ of 131 to be accepted. It is 2% of the population worldwide with the highest IQ. Scientific American have examined the Mensa with a focus on our topic, mental illnesses. The results of the survey were startling. More than a quarter of the Mensa respondents said they had been formally diagnosed with a mood disorder, while 20% reported an anxiety disorder, far higher than the national averages of about 10% for each, writes Scientific American. The prevalence of environmental allergies was triple the national average, while the number of respondents reporting food allergies was nearly triple the national average. In fact, the researchers found increased risk for every examined condition in those with high intelligence compared to those among the national data, a pattern that holds true for both self-diagnosis and clinical diagnosis.
We are sadly out of time for today, but we'd like to thank you for tuning into this week's podcast on intelligence and mental disorders. Next week, we will be delving deeper into another very interesting topic, which is whether or not artificial intelligence is capable of learning independently of human influence. This week's podcast was made by Wing, Matthew, Shelley, and Christine from Second Eye. Edits done by Wing. Research by Christine, Wing, Shelley, and Matthew. Interview by Shelley. Speakers role, Christine, Wing, Shelley, and Matthew.